Hello and welcome to another week of the OCVarsity Gridiron Show. This is week 4. I'm your host, Jonathan Khamis, being joined by Steve Fryer to my left and Dan Albano to my right. Guys, let's talk game of the week as we have 3-1 Corona Del Mar. They will be at 1-3 San Clemente. CDM beat Lakewood last week 35-0. Ethan Garber's continuing his solid play with 4 touchdowns passing, 3, of course, to our guy, John Humphreys. Steve, it's a little bit different. We don't usually see San Clemente with a 1-3 record this year, but as head coach Jaime Ortiz said, this has been the overall toughest preseason schedule of his tenure, and that dates back all the way to the year 2000.
Yeah, 2 of those losses are the 2 top-ranked teams in San Diego County, Torrey Pines and La Costa Canyon. Both those teams are 4-0. They lost last week to a game. I think Dan and I, we both picked San Clemente to beat Murrieta Valley. They didn't. That's at Murrieta Valley. You know, this is very important game for San Clemente because pretty soon they got Tesoro coming up. Pretty soon they got Mission Viejo coming up. San Clemente does not have a bye in the schedule. You know, they'll have a week 10, opening there. But, yeah, this is the time when you got to start gathering momentum as you go into that league because that South Coast League is really good. You know, we mentioned Tesoro. We mentioned Mission Viejo. Capistrano Valley's in that league. El Toro's in that league, and they put up some big points here and there too. So, yeah, it's really, time to get it going for the Tritons.
Yeah, and speaking of the Tritons, Brendan Costello had 3 touchdowns last week, but also threw 2 interceptions. But he's one of the better county quarterbacks. Dan, what do you think about this matchup?
Well, and San Clemente doesn't have Sam Darnold anymore. No. I mean,
neither does USC.
The Jets do, and they did pretty well last night.
Seriously, what concerns me the most about San Clemente is defense. Last week, they gave up 621 yards of offense to, and they saw a really good quarterback in Hank Bachmeyer, who's a Boise State commit, and now they're seeing a great junior on the rise in Ethan Garbers. But this is, concerning. They're allowing the Tritons 39.7 points per game, which is the most of any of the teams in the South Coast League. San Clemente's got their work cut out with another high-powered offense, and they really have got to start to make some improvements on defense.
All right, well, let's talk about a little bit about that South Coast League and another team, and that's 4-0 Mission Viejo. They are taking on 3-0 Upland. This game will be at Upland. So the Diablos beat Villa Park last week 28-13. Joey Yellen had a great game, 291 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I know you love him, Steve. Yeah. And the defense, how good has the defense been, guys? They picked up another 3 interceptions. That's 9 interceptions in their last 3 games. Diablos starts with D.
You know what? Maybe their defensive backfield, very good. Yeah. Maybe their defensive backfield is the second best after what, Mater Day, maybe, Dan, something like that. Really good group back there with the Keely Arnold, et cetera. So this is another challenging game for the Diablos. Upland at home, that's the #1 ranked team in Division II. If they get this game, and I know that Coach Chad Johnson at Mission Viejo is kind of not really jazzed that his team doesn't quite have that killer instinct thing that he wants to see where you play all 48 minutes and it's locked down up and down. But if they get a W up there, I don't care if it's 1 point, I don't care if it's 20 points, that's going to be a nice win.
Speaking of Upland, they beat La Mirada last week 35-7. They had 2 punt returns returned for touchdowns in the 3rd quarter alone. There is a lot of talent on this team. Yeah. And they also beat a county opponent in La Habra in week 0. Dan, they have a Washington commit in Cameron Davis. He had 134 yards rushing. This is a great team, as Steve mentioned, but what does Mission have to do to get that W on the road?
Well, you mentioned him, Cameron Davis, Washington commit. He's already rushed for 434 yards, averaging almost 8 yards a carry, 3 100-yard games, 6'2", 180 pounds. So he's a pretty big guy. But Mission can counter and try to keep him off the field with their own running back. Jamari Farrell is up to 320 yards. He's finding the end zone, 5 TDs. So, it'll be interesting how Upland tries to attack that Diablo defense. Last week, the team we're going to talk about here momentarily, Villa Park decided to attack the Diablos through the air. I don't know, but I think Upland's going to run it with Cameron Davis. So Diablo's going to have to play real sound defense, which really hasn't been a trouble. They're allowing about 14 points a game, which is pretty good. But then in the South Coast League, fellas, you have teams like Capo Valley and Tesoro, who we mentioned, they're only allowing 8. So the Diablos defense has been very good, and I think the Diablos can get this win. I'm picking Mission Viejo, and I'm also picking Corona Del Mar.
Okay, let's go to our last game. It'll be 3-0 Servite against the aforementioned Villa Park Spartans. They're 2-1. This game will be at Fred Kelly Stadium. The Friars beat Roosevelt last week 32-13, and their offense has been on fire, Steve. They've been averaging 35 points in the last 2 games.
To me, it's a kind of a more interesting game for Villa Park. Just to, I like the way they're, taking on Mission, taking on Servite, see where they measure up. Still the best team in the Crestview League. When you play better competition, whatever your sport, you play better people, it makes you better. So win or lose, salute to Villa Park for playing this game. And for Servite, I don't know where they sort of fit in yet in that Trinity League. Are they the number 6 team? Are they the number 3 team? Definitely it's Bosco, modern day Bosco, however you want to put it. So this is, to me, even though this isn't, another big private school team, Villa Park's good. They play with pride. Paferi's a good quarterback, 6'5", 210, going to Purdue. Good test for the Friars, I think, yeah.
And good test for the Spartans, too. Yeah. All right, Dan, you got to give credit to Villa Park. They're really punching above their weight, if you will, like Edison used to do, playing Modern Day and Servite every year. So how does this one shake out?
Well, Dusan Ansich is preached to his team after that Mission Viejo loss that they have to execute better because they had 3 first-half turnovers against Diablos and they fell behind at halftime. They actually outscored Mission Viejo 13-7, 13-6 or so in the second half. And like I was talking about, Paul Paferi threw a school record 48 attempts last week against Mission Viejo. So are they gonna air it out and try to air it out against Servite? I wouldn't put it past Dusan. He loves Paul Paferi. He's got really good receivers like Clemente, Benia, Hermosillo has got 3 touchdown catches last week. So could be a really interesting game. But then you got Servite, who's trying to get to the bye, another bye, their second bye. But they're on the bye next week and they get ready for their opener in Trinity League action against Modern Day. So this is a big one for them to get and then go into Trinity League possibly 4-0. So, I think it's a big spot, and also Blaze McKibben, Servite quarterbacks, coming off a real good game for 263 yards against Roosevelt.
Okay, and finally we'll get to our viewer question of the week. This comes from Patrick Takinen, and he's basically asking, guys, which of the Freeway League teams do we predict will make the playoffs? Steve, I'll start with you.
Well, La Habra's 0-4, but man, that schedule's been mighty tough, Yeah, exactly right. Mission Viejo, Upland, etc. They're still the team to beat in that league. And then after that, Sunny Hills and Dan, I know you're pretty high on Sunny Hills. I think you've seen them play. I go see them play Thursday against Kennedy. Looking forward to that. It's going to be a good running game there. Game be over in about 30 minutes,
The Lancers throw the ball now.
Yeah, they have a good quarterback. Duxbury is really good.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I haven't done my studying for that one yet. But I know I'll dop over there at Kennedy, among the leading rushers in the county. So that'll be a lot of fun to see them. I think after that, and then Bueno Park looks like they're a little bit better this year. They're 2-2. And then I think Fullerton, I think those are the top 3 teams in that league. Troy started 0-4, Sonora's 0-3. So I don't quite know where they all fit in with that situation right there. But right now, for me, it's Sunny Hills, La Habra, and Fullerton. Not in that order.
You mentioned Sonora. Sonora lost a heartbreaker last week to Cypress, so they might be getting better too. That's a team on the rise as well, I believe. And with Sunny Hills, Dan, Coach Karavitas, I'm telling you, those Lancers will drive through a wall for that guy.
You did a Camp Chronicles with them,
and I did an all access with them.
What'd you get out of that?
Like I was saying, there's a lot of energy that Karavitas brings to the team, and the team is totally bought in. And there's some talent for sure.
Yeah, they have some very good juniors in that class. So they're building really well, but I think it's going to be La Habra and then Sunny Hills second, and I like that duel between Fullerton and Troy for third. Maybe Sonora in the mix as well. Troy's an improved team. I saw them against Fountain Valley, and they have their moments. They're running the spread now. So I could see them challenging. We'll see a lot about Fullerton this week. They have a pretty interesting game this week against Brea. So. And Fullerton started a little bit hotter than they are. They've kind of cooled off. So that we'll see about the Indians, but that should be quite a race. All those 2 through 4, that should be pretty good in the Freeway League.
Yeah, I agree. All right,
thanks, Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick, you're the man. All right, thanks to Steve, thanks to Dan. I'm Jonathan Khamis, and we'll see you at the games this weekend and Thursday. Is that also considered a weekend?
In my life, it's a weekend.
Every day is your weekend, yeah. All right, thanks for watching.